Hello, you lovely ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mangus and I'm very happy to announce that the Egg Cup is currently underway and it is booming. We almost got 500 people playing in this tournament. It is one of the largest Advanced Wars tournaments ever, I think. If you want to go sign up, you can do that right now. I'll throw a little video, it's going to pop up here, I think, on screen. Just go watch that, it will tell you how to sign up. I'm going to let signups be open for a long while longer. The more people who can play in this tournament, the better. And I said I would be casting random replays from this tournament, and I decided to pick this one between Trunith and Grained Kruschev. I'm just going to call him Grained. So the first round is played on Caustic Finale, one of my favorite maps ever. Some people did say it was a little bit mean to throw noobs into a mixed base map as their first tournament experience, but hey, it's a good way to learn, okay? I know Caustic Finale is one of the more complicated maps you can play, but I think it is one of the most fun maps you can play, periods. I wanted it to be the first map of this tournament. So this is a Jake versus a Jess match. Very happy to see Jess being picked more in Tier 4. She wasn't picked very commonly. I made a video about her. I will say, though, I never argued Jess was good in Standard. I said she was good in Fog and on small maps. I actually don't think she's very good on Caustic Finale. I'll get more into that when we talk about the map. But overall, I would say that Trunith has the advantage in this match as Jake. He is a far stronger CO than Jess on Caustic Finale. But don't count Jess out. She still has some tricks up her sleeve. She still has very scary powers. And I will actually say that Jake, as good as he is with his increased artillery range and whatnot, there's actually not that many playing tiles for him to take advantage on Caustic. It's a lot more restrictive of a power than you might think. If you actually take a look at Caustic Finale, the map, yeah, sure, there are plains here. There's also a lot of roads, lots of cities, lots of forests, lots of mountains. It's a very heavily terrained area. So sure, there are plain tiles here and there, but not as many as you might think. So to get full benefit out of those powers that he has might not be as easy as one might imagine. Still, Caustic Finale, it's a very complicated map. There's a lot of fronts, lots of engagements to take. Each player can get up to 4 bases, which is absolutely bonkers. This means there's going to be infantry battles taking place everywhere, which is obviously not great for Jess, because she has that minus 10% firepower on her infantry, which is not fantastic. So yeah, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get started. Both of these players are fairly well rated, I think, around the 1200 area. So there's a lot of fresh 800s in this tournament, but there's also some really good players. The matchups are random, and I do apologize for that. It would have probably been better if we had matched people up according to their rating, but that was a little bit more complicated a script than I wanted to make for such a big tournament, so I just went with random matchups. Sorry to those of you who got stomped by like a 400, 1400 Grandmaster in the first round. I hope that you still had some fun. So, Trunith, obviously, both players are just going to build infantry on the first few days. I think the build order on Caustic Finale is pretty much the same regardless of your skill. I mean, you obviously want to go for the neutral bases first always so you can produce more units, and then you pretty much just want to capture. Now, I will say, really happy that the replay viewer has now added walking map animations. You see that the soldiers, previously they would just slide across the map, but look at them now. Now they actually walk like they do on Advanced Wars by Web. And I do also believe that we have new power animations, so I'm actually very excited about that. Really good job to whoever created this replay viewer. Like, you're doing God's work, seriously. So happy that we have a proper replay viewer, because the site is not in its best state at the moment. So Grained, moving out, capturing those properties. Both players are just going to secure as many neutral properties as they can in this early stage of the match. But Caustic Finale starts getting interesting around like day 4, day 5, when basically we'll get to see which player wants to go aggressive first, because you can play pretty passive on this map. You see these areas in the corners here, very good for artillery. Jake obviously excels at that with his increased artillery range during powers, but Jess's artillery still hit pretty damn hard during her powers, so don't count Jess out in an artillery battle. She can certainly bring some heavy firepower. So yeah, Grain going down for the comm tower. In most matches on Caustic Finale, both players will send one infantry down to the comm tower corner, and those infantry will just stand and have like a stare down for the rest of the match. That is usually how it goes. Not very common to see people fight over the comm towers on Caustic Finale, despite them being so close to each other, because you have these mountains right here, which makes that very hard. If the mountains weren't here, there'd be a lot more fighting down here for sure. And there also just aren't that many properties to fight over here. Like, the only other neutral property on this corner island is on the opposite side of each other. So there's just not that much to gain here. There's tons of forests, which prevents tank mobility, even though there are some shoals, which makes it easier to reach this part of the map. I very rarely see people fight over the comm towers, although it has been known to happen. We'll see. So, Trunith decides to send 2 infantry over to the corner here. We'll see if any player decides to deploy an early game artillery. That could be very exciting if that happens. So, Grained goes for his property. Both players just capturing their remaining neutrals. So, there we go. And both players, there we go. Grained actually deploying an artillery here. So, there's usually only one thing we see this artillery do, and that is go up and stand on this forest tile right here. It sits pretty comfortably there. It covers both of the cities, as you can see, and it's almost impossible to take it out, because on Caustic Finale there are no airports, so no battlecopters, which means artillery are even better, because they're super easy to guard. Lots of choke points on Caustic Finale. It's a very, very well-designed map. So, Trunith decides to send his tank over here. This is a very good move, because when you have your tank over here, it now threatens 2 different areas. It threatens this city right here, and it threatens this, well, it doesn't threaten this city yet, but it can theoretically swing both ways. This is why it's usually good to be the first player to get a tank out on Caustic, because this means you dictate where the match can be taken. For example, if Grained decides to build a tank here in response to Trunith's tank, Trunith can go to the right, but if Grained builds a tank here, then Trunith can swing to the left. So this offers him a lot of tempo flexibility. He decides where the match is taken. And Trunith also decides to build an artillery up here. So now both players are going for the artillery. That means we're probably going to see a lot of fights in the corner. Usually what you can do on Caustic is you can just concede one of the corners to your opponent and you can take the other one. And then you kind of have a gentleman's agreement to just leave the corners alone and take all the fighting in the middle. So that's why I love Caustic. No match is the same on this map. There's always a different way to play this map. I don't think I've ever had 2 matches that are even remotely close to each other on Caustic Finale. It is such a varied map. So there we go. Grain going for the central properties right here and also going for the bottom corner properties. So both players seems to be going pretty standard builds. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary just so far. Day 7 rolls in, and we see Trunith going for his comm tower, capping the bottom right corner property on the island. And I'm very curious to see what he decides to do with his tank right now, because, of course, Grain has now responded with a tank on the left side. So what Trunith could do now is he could move the tank over to the right side to harass these infantry right here. Let's see what he decides to do. He moves his artillery over to the corner position, so now we really will have an artillery standoff. Now, of course, what Grain can do in this situation is Grain can put the artillery up on this forest right here. He can put it over here. But Trunith does have the advantage of being able to put the artillery down on this property right here, and then you can actually place the artillery in range of the enemy artillery, because you'll get repaired up. So whoever has captured properties going into an artillery battle actually has a huge advantage, because they can move their artillery in, put their artillery in range, and still win the artillery engagement thanks to the repair from the cities. So Trunith pulls back his infantry slightly, and yes, he does decide to move his tank over to this harbor here. This is very annoying, because now he's denying Grain from capturing the harbor. He won't be able to do it for long. Grain will probably build a tank here in response and chase him away, but here's the thing. If he builds one tank, Trunith will still win that engagement because he's on a harbor, and look, there's roads surrounding the harbor, so you can't attack this tank safely, which is very annoying. But Trunith does decide to build a tank over here, which is interesting. Okay, so he really wants to go hard on the HQ area of Grain, so we'll see what happens here. He seems to be playing very aggressively. So, Grain's turn rolls in. He goes for his comm tower, finishes capping his buildings, and yeah, and he does place the artillery right here, so now it's covering this property. So if Trunith wants to take this property, he'll take shelling from the artillery. And he moves in, finishes capturing some properties, and he moves his tank into the center. Again, same move as Trunith did earlier. This tank can now go in either of these 2 directions. So he probably sees, though, that Trunith is going to push pretty heavily around this HQ area, so he needs some backup over here, or else he's just gonna get blasted away. So he goes for this city. This city is always a problem, at least when I play in this position. I feel like I never get this city. It's so easy to capture, or it's so easy to interrupt. It's really, really annoying. So, here we go. Grain decides to bunch up around his HQ, and here comes the artillery. It's not a bad move, honestly. This artillery is very well protected, and now he's actually surrounding the tank. So that is a very nice trap. I did not see that. So that's genius. Now, the only problem with this trap is that if he actually wants to shoot with the artillery next turn, he's going to have to base block himself. So you kind of have to make a decision, is it worth it? I would maybe say it is. I mean, it is a free shot on a tank, but if you want to actually kill the tank, you're going to have to base block yourself for 2 turns, and is that really worth it? Now, obviously, you can move the artillery, but I think Trunith will probably find some way to break out this tank. He has 2 infantry coming in, so I don't think this trap is going to succeed. It kind of depends on what Trunith decides to do next turn. So day 8 rolls in. Let's see what it decides to do with that tank. So first, finish capping the properties. He gets his comm tower. He goes for the interrupt. This is a problem with Jess, or this is an advantage that Jake definitely has over Jess right here. So you see, he does have the comm tower, and he gets a planes boosted infantry right here, and a 10%. So this infantry had 20% firepower, this infantry had 10%. So together they were able to interrupt the city. Jess would not have been able to do the same thing in his shoes, and that is pretty huge on Caustic Finale. Infantry engagements are so common on this map, and that 10% firepower reduction, you really do feel that. So Trunith decides to go and capture these 2 properties as well. They are theoretically on his side of the map, and he decides to try and break out. I mean, yeah, it really has no choice. So as you can see right here, unless Grain is willing to put infantry in front, then this tank is probably not getting shelled. Let's see what it decides to do. I'm very curious if Grain is going to base block himself to get that free arty shot. So Trunith moves over here. I think he's kind of conceded this part of the map now. He realizes he's never getting this property thanks to the artillery, so he might as well move his units elsewhere, which is smart. Gets another artillery out. Lots of tanks and artillery out already. This is about to get pretty wild, I think. So Grain, he moves in, takes a shot. Oh, a little bit of a mistake right there. Did you guys see that? I do this all the time. He forgets to cap before attacking. I swear to God, I do this so much. You guys have no idea. Because I'm used to capping at the end of my turns, which you should always make a habit to capture at the start of your turns. It is so annoying. Not that it's a huge deal. This infantry maybe would have been on 2 HP instead of 3, but in a tournament, every little bit counts. So seems like Kruschev or Grain actually does go for the shot. He decides to base block himself for going an extra unit, which, you know, you can certainly do that on Caustic. You got 4 bases. But still, getting that free shot on the tank is pretty nice, though. So I probably would have taken the same. And here he actually comes in and starts to shoot. And this is interesting. This is very interesting. So places himself on a plane right there. I have to wonder what he's thinking here. He does have this tank that's coming in, but he decides to get the cap, so that's pretty nice. And he decides to unshuckle that tank. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Setting up a nice little defensive line of tanks right here. He can build another tank from his base too to reinforce that. That's gonna make it really hard for Trunith to actually go in. So yeah, he's actually moving, and there we go, the medium tank. Now the medium tank, it's a little slow to move out initially. As you can see, lots of forests on Caustic Finale that prevents it from being effective right away. But now that that medium tank is there, then Trunith cannot continue this attack unless he gets a medium tank out on it out himself. And he only has an income of 17,000, so if he wants to build that medium tank, then he will need to base block himself. So, but then again, his opponent just did that, so maybe it's not so bad. So day 9 rolls in, Trunith decides to go for it. The medium tank isn't going to enter the fray just yet, so he might as well take the free hits while he can get them. He does place himself in range of this medium tank right here, though, which, I don't know if that's a good idea. Maybe he just wants to take the engagements where he can. He does have artillery coming in, which is nice, and this is what I was talking about right here. So he can do this. He can move his artillery onto the city, and even though he gets shot at next turn, he will actually win this engagement because he will constantly get 2 HP back from the city. So this is what you can do. Whenever you have an artillery standoff, if you have a property in the area that is captured, you can win this. At least as long as there's there's not too many infantry, because of course he can move over the river and he can attack, which might do 1 HP of damage, but it's not necessarily an engagement he will win until he gets tanks in. So he actually decides to go for the city. I'm very surprised. But yeah, no, go for it, man. I mean, this is pretty nice. And he gets out a medium tank as well. So he actually does decide to base skip here, I believe. So that's actually pretty smart. I mean, if your opponent's gonna base skip, you might as well try to base skip as well, right? So here, Trunith is really dominating over on this corner island right here. Like, Grain doesn't even have any infantry left, just a single 7 HP infantry right here. So he's going to lose all of these properties, so this is not necessarily going to be great for him. So, yep, he continues moving up, builds some infantry, and yeah, both players getting that medium tank out. That's a pretty smart move. Like, you have to, like, once your opponent gets a medium tank out in caustic, you have to respond with a medium tank of your own. Like, it really is such a bad idea not to. Otherwise, you're gonna have to pull away from here. Artillery, sure, you can try zoning it out for a little bit, but there's just so many avenues to break through on caustic, especially once those powers come in. It's very hard to keep your artillery safe. So in comes the medium tank. It's a very nice shot there. So the medium tank actually is in range though. So don't know if this was necessarily a great idea unless he decides to build another medium tank. I mean, that's certainly something he could do. Now he has to build a medium tank, I think. Or else I could also just block it with infantry, but I'm pretty sure Trunith can break through here if he really wants to. He has this artillery right here, which can shoot it. So yeah, don't know if this is a very smart idea. He does get a nice shot on it though. So, oh, okay, never mind. This infantry is on 2 HP. I take back what I said. This was a pretty nice move. So here you go. Takes the shot on the artillery. Really well done right here. This artillery is down to 4 HP, but it's going to get repaired up to 6, and then it's going to get to shoot back. And Trunith can also, unless he blocks it, move over and actually take shots at the artillery himself. So we'll see how this goes. So, yeah, seems like the battle is mostly being fought in the area between the two players' HQs. And looks like Grain is also moving his artillery down to try and support up here a little bit. He realizes he's going to lose a lot of properties if this goes on for very long. So Grain comes in. I'm pretty sure he'll be able to strike through here if he really wants to. But he comes in, he starts capping a bunch of properties. This is looking really bad. This is looking really bad for Grain. Like, Trunith is going to take all of those cities. And that's going to be a huge capture advantage on caustic, which you really don't want. Takes a shot back, reduces the artillery to 5 HP. Could also move in with the infantry. That's exactly what it does. Gets a good shot, good high roll, doing 2 HP of damage to the artillery. So that's really nice. As you can see, this artillery engagement is lost now. In comes the tank. Takes a shot at the artillery. Just leaving the artillery in range of the tank right there. That's a bit of a blunder. So, yeah. And places the medium tank on the HQ. So I think the reason why Trunith is playing so defensively with his medium tank right here is because the Jess power is coming in. And you really, really do not want to let Jess get a shot on her medium tank against your medium tank with her powers up. Jess hits so hard, especially with the comm tower. You get that super power up, your medium tank is gone. It's reduced to like 2 HP if it's out in the open, so you have to be careful. So yeah, it looks like Trunith is pulling back here. He realizes he can't really fight this. So Grain is going to take back some of the cities here, but he's also going to lose a lot of cities down on the corners. So I don't really know if that's a good thing for him. Comes up with 2 additional tanks here. So again, like, this area is like the conflict area, but there's also small engagements going on in the top left corner. Day 10 rolls in. Grain has to pull back his artillery lest he wants to lose it. And he doesn't even get this city, which, that's a well done by Trunith denying that. That's a well played. In comes the medium tank. He has to be careful, though. Jake power is very close, and this medium tank, will get 2 extra move, and it can get a shot on the planes. You really, really don't want that Jake medium tank to hit you out in the open. Sure, he has infantry, but there are ways to break through those infantry, so we'll see. I think Grain is overextending slightly here, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think he's going to hurt once that Jake power comes in. Really depends on who gets their power first, though. Like, whoever gets their power first will probably roll over the other players. So this is, I think we're going to have a very eventful turn very soon. So Trunith's turn rolls in. He decides to send some infantry over here to do some caps. And again, you can see that. That is like the advantage Jake has over Jess. 2 infantry with Jake with comm towers. As long as there's at least 1 plane tile, you can take away an infantry on a city. That is such an advantage on Caustic Finale. So, Trunith gathers up his forces in the bottom here. Looks like he wants to try and push for this property. Not really something that works most of the time because it can be reinforced within 1 turn with the tank from this base. So, but we'll see. At least it kind of forces Trunith, or it forces Grain to divide his forces up, I guess. So, but yeah, Trunith is moving hard in, and he's actually winning both corners by the looks of things, and that is not a good position you want to be in. Places his artillery here, pretty smart. And yeah, I think Grained is sadly overextending quite a bit right now. You really don't want to place your units within reinforcement range of the enemy bases. And this artillery might not be very strong right now, but it will heal to 4 HP next turn, making it very unfavorable for this tank to want to go and take shots against this tank, which is on a city, by the way. So it's a well-placed artillery, even though it's just on 2 HP, it's still doing its job. So Trunith pulls back a little bit. He's playing this very patiently, not overextending. Really like to see that. Day 11 rolls in, and Grained is up next. He finally gets his harbor. That has been uncapped for a very, very long time. And moves in his artillery as well. Oh, moves away his artillery from here. He's really scared he's going to lose it, which I understand. I mean, the Jake Power is about to come in, which means this artillery will get 1 extra range. This is something you have to be wary about. He could also pop his normal power and still get that 1 extra range. I understand why he pulls his artillery back. I really do. But yeah, this is what I was talking about. It's not very fruitful to try and go for this property. It's so easy to defend once it's capped. So I would rather focus my attention elsewhere. So, oh, okay, interesting. Grain moves down with his medium tank, gobbling up free infantry hits down here. That's a thing he can do, I guess. But he's also leaving his own infantry kind of out to dry here. He's going to lose all of them, I think, next turn if Trunith decides to go in. But both players are very close to getting their powers up, so this is a very tense part of the game where you overextend a little bit too much, your opponent gets a super and blows you up the map, or blows you off the map. So this is, I hate being in this situation myself, like, right before the superpowers come in, that's the worst time of any matchup, because that is when mistakes are bound to cost you the match. So, okay, interesting. So Trunith actually decides to push wests. He doesn't pick up these free infantry hits, which I guess wouldn't be very free, because that means Grain could probably just pop his power and come back up. So he decides to push wests and actually really threaten this corner right here. And look at how out of position Grain is to deal with this. Like, his medium tank and 2 of his tanks, 3 of his tanks, and artillery are in the corner here. Now, of course, this means he might take back the corner, but if it comes at the cost of losing this entire section of the map, then that's not very good for him. So this is a scary push from Trunith. Grain definitely has to move his forces to intercept that, or else he's going to die. And look at that, both powers less than 1 star away. So this is a super scary moment of the match. Let's see what Trunith decides to do. So, day 12 rolls in, and what will Grain do? Will he continue focusing on this bottom corner of the map, or will he pull his forces back to try and save the top west corner of the map? Let's see what he decides to do. So he takes back 2 properties. That's a nice pickup. He was definitely behind an income there, and he's starting to focus on these 2 properties right here too. So it's not like Trunith is not losing anything here. He stands to lose a lot from this as well, but I will say I think these pickups that Grain are gaining down here, they're very little compared to what Trunith is about to pick up here if he gets to push through here unopposed. So Grain does continue moving his artillery back far out of range of those incredibly scary tanks. He takes up a very defensive position around his bases, so this is going to be very interesting. He does move his units to the west, so now it looks like the battle is going to happen in the other corner of the map. This is what I love about Caustic Finale, you know? You have battles taking part on one area of the map, and then suddenly, boom, both players just swap their aggression over, and suddenly engagements are being taken on the other side of the map. Almost only in Caustic Finale do we see this happen so quickly, because the map is so small. So Grain does decide to he leaves some forces down here to try and get the corner island. Let's see if he decides to actually pick it up or not. Day 13 rolls in, still no superpowers. Both players are playing this very carefully right now. They know that whoever gets their superpower first is probably going to win the whole match. So, and okay, interesting. Actually going for Trunith actually going for a shot on the mountain right here. He does get a planes boosted infantry, so that's kind of nice, and moves his medium tank over here as well. So that's interesting. So both players, Trunith is slightly ahead in income and also unit value, so Trunith is definitely leading this now, so Grain is playing from behind, so let's see if he can do something about that. Really well-placed defense right here. Grain can still push through here if he wants to, but he doesn't have a medium tank down here. He can bring his medium tank from here, but I think he really will need that up in the top left corner of the map. So, yeah, I don't think Grain is going to be able to push through here. Even with a power, he wouldn't be able to wipe out that medium tank. And, yeah, Trunith's forces are just so well fortified over here. And of course, Grain does not have the advantage of getting that extra RD range whenever he pops his power. So yeah, this is a tough one for Grain, I think. I think Trunith is in a very good position. He feints. That was a feint attack. He actually moves all of his forces back again. So he decides to front switch back to the other side of the map again and really going hard for the HQ area. And this is a super scary attack right here. Look how exposed Trunith is right now. Grain is right now. He's about to get hit from all sides, and that superpower is coming ever closer, and once it hits, oh man, it's not going to be pretty. Day 13 rolls in. Grain actually decides to go for it. He wall breaks the infantry, goes in, takes out the artillery. Ooh, I don't know about this one. I think this isn't going to cost him, I think. Trunith is about to get a superpower, and he's going to roll over him here, so... yeah, this is very scary. I don't know if I would have gone for that if I was Grain, but I guess he feels like if he doesn't get these properties, then he's going to keep playing from behind. So decides to actually combine his infantry together there. That's probably to afford an extra tank, I would imagine. So he builds a medium tank. So moves his tanks over here. Interesting. All right. Places his tank here on the city. I don't think that's going to protect it once Trunith pops his power, because he has a planes right. Like... whenever you play against Jake, you really don't want to put your units next to plane tiles unless you can avoid it. So we'll see how this goes. Grain moves up. I think he's placing himself squarely in range of a Jake super now. So, but he is placing his units relatively good in a formation, so we'll see what happens. Trunith's turn, pops in. Will he pop his block rock? Yes, he does. Block rock comes in! Oh, look at those sweet animations. Okay, so 2 extra range on those tanks. 1 extra range on the arty. He gets up to 50% firepower on planes. This is going to be insane. So here we go. Boom. Boom. Artillery gone. This is what I was talking about. Really not a smart idea to run headfirst into a Jake superpower. Okay, so yeah. Trunith is definitely winning the island right here. He's even threatening the comm tower, which is not good. In comes the tank. In comes the medium tank. Ooh, that is nice. Placing the arty behind the medium tank. That is clever. One-shots the infantry. Yeah, Jake is tough to play against on Caustic Finale as Jess. Like, he has such an advantage. His power is definitely a lot better in this area. So, yeah, look at this. Okay, moving his artillery into defensive position. I mean, the Jess Super is going to come in, but is it going to be enough? That's the big question. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. So, yeah, the comm tower is going to fall if he's not careful here. This is actually really scary. So, Grain is up next, and here comes the turbocharge. This is a very important turbocharge. Look at those animations. I love it. So, okay, interesting. Gets a shot. One-shots the tank. Gets another tank. Moves in with it. He has to pull an entire tank away here to deal with these infantry. That's never a good position to be in. That's a tank that won't get to fight in the middle, which is where he really needs them. So he does move in. He attacks pretty heavily up in the top left corner. He might actually pick up a bunch of the cities there, so we'll see what happens. Moves in the artillery. Builds another medium tank. So yeah, this attack is going to be tricky now for Trunith. I don't see him really pushing into here. He might pick up a property, but no, actually he will not. Because Jess comes in with her tanks. Ooh, and they really hurt too. Oh, it's too bad he didn't have an extra tank to follow that up with to get the artillery. But man, don't count Jess out. Her powers are really strong. So both players right now, Kruschev is actually a little bit ahead over Trunith. So that was a pretty nice power. Trunith does have the unit count advantage though, and a slight income lead, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, this corner island right here, it's gonna fall now. This is pretty scary. Tank goes back. And now the comm tower keeps coming under threats, and he blocks off the tank, which is fantastic. That's actually really, really smart. Of course, it looks like the tank can intercept now because it still has the movement, but it won't next turn, so keep that in mind. So yeah, this is what we call a Manx infantry right here. Like, this is, don't do Manx infantry moves, okay? That's silly. So, ooh, yeah, this kind of hurts. I mean, Jess still has her power up. Oh! I just realized this was not a Just Super. This was a Just Normal power. I completely missed that. My bad. I thought that was an overdrive, but it was a turbocharge. This is actually not a terrible thing to do as Jess. Popping 2 normal powers consecutively is actually pretty damn strong. She won't get her second normal power completely for free. Like, there is its 20% penalty whenever you pop your power, but she will probably be able to get it almost right after the first one if she takes a few engagements. We'll see. But yeah, I thought that was an overdrive, but I guess if a turbocharge can get the job done, then that's completely fine. Sometimes having those 2 consecutive normal powers can be really nice in a game like this, because you still get the 10% firepower and 10% defense, which is so nice. So, let's see. So if you take a look at Jess's power bar right here, yeah, you can see she has about half a star left until she can pop her normal power. So she needs to take a couple of engagements, but it might be worth it. We'll see. So here comes Jess's tanks. Very nice, picking up that artillery up in the northwestern corner. That's incredibly nice. Ooh, look at this. Gets a one-shot on a tank. Yeah, this attack from Trunith, it's not going as well as I thought it would. It's actually still a pretty even match. Very, very exciting. I would say Trunith is still slightly ahead, but Grained is definitely fighting his way back into this. This is actually really well. Builds 2 tanks right here. It's so hard to push into your opponent's base area on Caustic because, you know, when the map is so small, reinforcements happen instantly. So your attack better be a strong one. Otherwise, you're just going to get force max. There's a lot of back and forths on Caustic Finale, which I really like. So day 16 rolls in. And yeah, Trunith is not conceding this island. I don't think Grain is going to be able to pick it up. And once again, the city, you can fight over it, but it's not changing hands once it's been captured. It's very rare. Trunith comes in with his infantry. 2 infantry having a standoff, no one wins. Always such a... I hate attacking 1 HP infantry with 1 HP infantry. You never know how it's gonna turn out. But yeah, I mean, Trunith just biding his time, placing his tanks on properties, and this is an incredibly annoying aspect of Caustic Finale. When you manage to choke this bridge right here, you really do need artillery. Still, though, I'm not sure about this attack. I think this attack, it looks scary, but keep in mind, Grain can reinforce every single turn with 2 new units. So unless he gets base blocked, this attack is not going to work. So we'll see what happens. So, day 16 rolls in, and let's see what Grain decides to do. He is winning up in the top left corner here, but he has a massive attack coming in on his HQ, so let's see what he decides to do. This is where I would love to pull out the battleship if my harbor was available and I had the funds for it, but I don't think this is a good idea as Grain, because he's playing as Jess, which means that battleship has a little bit less firepower. So, yeah. So again, this comm tower, as you can see, it's almost impossible to take. It's so easy for either player to intercept those caps. But Grain is playing really well here. He's taken back this island. He doesn't have that many healthy infantry to commence the capstone. He has 1, but the other one, he has like the 6 HP infantry. It's gonna take like 4 turns to cap, which is really annoying. But let's see what Grain decides to do here. He moves in with his medium tank. It's a nice hit off there. Moves his other tanks in this. I don't agree with this. I don't think there's anything for Grain to pick up in this area. Like, you're not gonna take this property. You already have this property. So why are you moving your troops down here? I would probably just move them north and commence an attack on the HQ or something. Maybe he's hoping he can like run the tanks underneath the mountain range. Oh, sorry about that. Maybe he hopes he can run the tanks underneath the mountain range and reinforce. But yeah, I don't really agree with applying pressure on this part of the map right here. But we'll see. Maybe he has a plan that I'm not seeing. So I'm not gonna speak like I know everything. So, day 17 rolls in. As you can see, like, what is Trunith going to do here? I mean, 3 medium tanks. It's hard to attack into this, but powers are about to come in again, so we'll see what happens. He decides to take the shot here, 7-4, not a bad engagement. He goes and, he goes for the HQ. What is going on here? Does he play? Oh, he comes with a block rock. Here we go. Ooh, let's see what happens here. Boom, one-shots the infantry. Pulls back his tank. In comes the planes boosted medium tank. Oh, can he get a base block off here? That'd be sick. Not quite a base block. He doesn't have quite the many units to follow this up, but he takes the harbor, and now he's capping 2 properties. This is a scary attack right here. He needs to be careful. Grain is so close from being base blocked here. If Trunith had 1 extra unit, he could have base blocked him, and that probably would have been GG. And he's moving in here on the northwestern corner. So yeah, Trunith playing this really well. You definitely can see the advantage that Jake has over Jess in this engagement. It's hard. It's really hard to play against that extra range. So day 17 rolls in. Will Grain surrender? No, he pumps his overdrives. Just super coming in here. Is it enough to get him back into the match? Let's find out. He moves in, interrupts the caps. He takes the city back, so that's nice. Evens the income gap a little bit. And blocks off the bridge. Not bad at all. And gets a shot on the artillery, which is nice, but I don't know if he has enough to defend against this. Trunith has a very scary attack, and he's gonna get a city now as well, which is gonna widen their income gap even further. And Kruschev decides to resign. Yeah, I see that. I don't think there was a way to beat back that attack. Still though, both players played really well. This was a very exciting match. Lots of back and forth. Kudos to Grain for picking Jess in this match. That is never an easy thing to do on Caustic, but I love to see her more in tier 4. I'm a big Jess fan. I think she needs more love, so yeah, well played to both players. As I said, guys, the Egg Cup is still ongoing. Go and sign up for it. It's a lot of fun. I don't care if you've ever played in a competitive Advanced Wars tournament before. This is your chance to get into it. If you're afraid, if you're anxious, if you think it's scary, that's why you should do it, okay? Challenging your fear makes you stronger. I know I sound like some kind of life coach on Instagram right now, but hey, do it. It's a lot of fun, okay? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be picking a random fight from the second round, and I'm going to be casting that as well. I'm going to be casting lots of replays from the Egg Cup. Hope you guys are enjoying it, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care!